One of the things I went back, because I know in your December report, and I already talked a little bit about this, and I'm encouraging you to be upfront with your list, because there were several things you noted from December, project-wise, you know, that's not on our capital improvement list. So make sure, you know, we go back and give Jeff a copy of this, and then you can explain.
Yeah.
You've already got it written. You might as well just hand it to him so that
Yeah.
we can, because those are all imperative things to keep us afloat water-wise. So just, you know, this is, I was going to ask you about that.
I already spoke with him before the meeting. He knows it's coming.
Okay, good. All right. Any public comment? I keep forgetting to do that. Sorry, Dave.
That's all right.
All right.
I'm just getting educated here.
Anything else, Randy, you want to add to anything?
The skate up is stuff they've been working on. You're starting to see it in your.
What they've done last week, they came out and replaced all the tank level pressure transducers, so that could aid in reporting and hopefully in water loss. You know, actually having an actual idea of what's in the tank other than guessing or incorrect numbers that it's reporting. They are within 1/10 of a foot, you know, so they're pretty spot on accurate right now, and they said that could get better as time goes on because cables will straighten and lengthen and whatnot, you know, so it could actually increase in accuracy. And I got a phone call this morning. They're coming out tomorrow morning to meet with me and remove the PLC out of our server, install a temporary, and take ours to send it to Florida, have it completely reprogrammed and dialed into what our program, what I put in, what Pete put in, what Elizabeth put in, exactly how it's supposed to run, is going to be sent to Florida, programmed, come back and installed. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have a complete, brand new 100% SCADA system.
That's all positive. That's great.
It is. And they're rebuilding the screens and they're doing training and...
One thing that's kind of imperative about the CIP stuff that Pete will be talking about later is it's great that we have a completely 100% brand new functional SCADA system, but if we don't have the controls that operate correctly in the field to do that, you know, it kind of doesn't, you know, so getting these pump control valves taken care of one at a time will be a real benefit to us to make sure that our SCADA works with our controls at every site. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
And you're working on the rusted pipes, right?
Well, yeah, throughout phone calls and emails and meetings and everything else, yes.
Okay.
There's 2 of them now, but
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, Randy? Questions? No? Thank you, Randy. I'm going to move on to items 4. I've been asked to separate items D, E, and F off the consent agenda where we're going to approve just items A and B. That's what's up for approval at this point. Then they want to have discussion on D, E, and F, P.
Okay, and let me just say that application, those items are relevant for discussion with Jeff as well.
Okay.
And then when we get done with that, can we jump into the capital project list
Perfect.
after that? Okay,
That's perfect.
all right.
Yeah, a great way to tie it together.
Good deal.
Even though we're jumping and try to be semi-organized, Cindy will keep us on track if we're not. So,
Yeah, she's crossing them off as we go.
okay. All right. So we're up to the consent, the treasurer's report, and the regular minutes from our January 22nd meeting.
And I'll move, we need a comment.
Public comments about anything?
No,
Dave, we won't quit asking you. Just if you want to say something, just let us know. How about that?
I'm tuned into that.
Okay. All right, bud. All right.
Yeah, I'll move approval on those 2 items.
Did you get the second, Cindy?
No.
Russ, second, Warren.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. So now we're going to go to items D, E, and F, which if my pages are correct, it's 16 through 21 in your packet. And pull back out that supplemental piece of paper that which is item 5D on capital projects. We'll have those all together at the same time, and we'll go forward. So Pete, I'll let you take the lead
I
on
have a
this.
question. Now, my D is page 64. You said D, is that your second D or what?
I-
Okay, you say D.
I said D. D as in dog. This is what I'm saying with page
4D.
supplement for that.
I show page 64 here, right there.
That's what, he gave us, that's on capital projects, Emery.
There you go.
And so put that with pages 16 through 21. And we're gonna discuss them all.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, because it was in the consent agenda, just because I knew we had a busy meeting. Okay, so these are 3 actions related to the submittal of a planning grant application to the State Water Resources Control Board. This is a project that the board approved this last spring. We've had Kennedy Jinks working on the planning grant application since that time. And unfortunately, since that time, they've also lost multiple engineers. I can't even tell you how many that have moved on to other companies. There's a lot of movement in engineering right now, as Jeff can tell you. So it's taken quite a while for them to get the application to the point where it's ready to be submitted. And so the first action is simply procedural, just a secret notice of exemption. It's a plan. It's just a check the box for the state that this is not a project. It's exempt under law. It's just a planning study. We're not committing to a project at this point, so there's no way to evaluate any impact, so it's exempt. Okay, so that's what that first action is. When that is approved, then it goes to the state clearinghouse and to the county. They post it, and then you usually don't get challenged on anything like that. The second item is designating resolution designating a representative that can file the application and make all the certifications. What happens is you file the documentation. You're assigned a project manager, and then the communication starts. They'll ask you for a copy of this, a copy of that, sign this form, sign that form, update this form. It's kind of a constant barrage of typically emails from the state asking for review and approval of certain things. And then there's also the authorizing the executing the agreement. So if we get a $500,000 planning grant, there'll be an agreement that comes with it. I'll sign that. And then there's the reimbursement requests as well. So in other words, as the expenses come in for the engineering associated with the planning study, then we submit to the state and get reimbursed by the state. Those forms have to be submitted and signed by an authorized representative. And so that resolution designates myself as the authorized representative for all those actions. I usually do most of those either through the accounting firm. They'll keep all the bills, they'll put them all together, drop it in the spreadsheet, it'll come to me, I'll review everything, I'll sign it, send it into the state. If it's an engineering type issue, I'll send it to Jeff, have him review it, say it's okay to sign, and then I'll sign it. So I'll sign it under advice of our accounting or engineering. And then the last item associated with that is it's basically pledging a commitment to the project. In other words, if they're going to give us a grant to proceed with planning a project, that we're going to proceed with it. The process is you complete the planning work, and that transitions directly into your construction grant application. And so there's you progress into a different set of paperwork that you're submitting that's part of the application for construction grants, and then they will send you a contract that says here's the amount of grant, here's the amount of loan, and that's the point that I would say once we get to that point, that's when it comes back to the board for further action, even though this would authorize us to proceed right through the construction.
In the process, so this amount, how does that impact our cash situation?
How does what we're doing here?
Yeah, this.
Are you asking what does this cost?
Yeah, what does it have any impact on our?
So is the planning grant application, do we have a cost to participate? I think is what.
Yeah, we've already approved. I don't remember. I think it was 16,000, something like that, for Kennedy Jinks to prepare the planning grant application. That's in our budget, and we'll be within that budget to get that submitted. Then there'll be quite a bit of servicing associated with that application. It's highly likely that I'll transition and have Jeff's people and Jeff service that application if there are engineering questions, just because the same people that started at Kennedy Jinks are not there working on this anymore, and I want to have Jeff really familiar with what we're working on.
I guess this. I'm now remembering that you were talking about loans and stuff. So this isn't going to progress like one of our grant things for a well or thing, because what we're really talking about, the grant is for the planning.
Yes.
But it leads up to us actually borrowing money to do the work.
Yes, we will get
At a very good interest rate, but this isn't grant money.
Well, at the end of it,
He said it could be.
Yeah, I mean, at the very end, probably the best we can ask for is if it winds up being a $5 million or $4 million project, that 75% of it would be, we would have an agreement that would say, this amount is principal forgiveness grant and this amount is loan. And meanwhile, over that period of time, they would be looking at our financials to make sure we had the ability to make the payments on it, that we had cash flow to be able to cover our operating expenses. And, you know, Jeff, don't hesitate to jump in if I'm capturing any of this wrong. But there's no, the only commitment is for us to finish the planning grant application process at this time. Then we're going to go, if we're awarded, then we will go out and award a contract for the planning work, whether that's Jeff or another firm or however we work that out.
Of our, what percentage of this what percentage of our bad capital infrastructure would this resolve? I mean, 25% of all of our exposure to.
It's a good point. Depending on how you rank it. It is going to focus on water supply reliability out of the lake. It's going to focus on water quality out of the treatment plant and upgrading that and controls and technology and all that. And it also is, and one thing that we'll need to make sure that I add to the scope as it goes in is the defects in the pump control valves that we're seeing and the electrical controls at each of the sites. So it will cover a lot of the things that are driving us crazy.
This is all then to do with the raw water pipe. It's just down to,
No, it's the intake.
okay,
It's the intake
itself.
the structure of the intake and the depth, the potential for a deeper pump. It'll resolve that. We'll also look at we'll evaluate the leakage rate on the raw water line to determine if that is something that needs to be designed into it. We will look at the treatment plant and the problems with the face piping and controls here and updating that. And if there's anything with the treatment process that needs to be dealt with, we can look at that, but that's not as critical. And then in the distribution system, the electrical controls and the pump control valves and the altitude valves are a big problem.
So this is everything but basically mains and pipe.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Whether we can get all that in a $500,000 planning grant, because this takes it all the way through design. Right, Jeff? I mean, it's
The planning grant is for $500,000, and that will allow us, like Pete was saying, to evaluate all the deficiencies that we want to identify in the system. And Randy and Pete have already identified with you guys, because I've seen the minutes, a bunch of capital projects that are deficiencies. So the planning grant will look at all of those, prioritize and assign costs, and then put together a report justifying to the state why these are the projects that we're going to proceed with. Then part of that $500,000 is, and it's a very small part, is used to prepare a construction funding application, which is the second part that he was talking about. As of last year, the state was allocating an $8 million limit every 5 years for districts to do that.
$8 million in construction costs?
In total cost. So the $500,000
Okay.
is out of that $8 million.
Okay.
So you have like $7.5 million to do infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
And then at the end of that period, what we would do is just prioritize and say, if we can get $7.5 million, you can get more. You can get $10 or $12 million, but anything over that $8 million limit is in the form of low interest loans.
So the 7 and up to the 8 is, I'll say, grant money?
Yeah, they call it grant, but it's technically a loan with principal forgiveness.
Okay.
You don't have to pay back.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So this is your piece of paper, right? I've been looking at that over years. Now, how does that fit into what we're talking about this minute?
anything. This is Jeff's, right? It says black on the top. Anything that some of the stuff we're not going to be able to wait on. So like with the barge, that's happening no matter what.
Right.
Potentially, definitely addressing the control valve at the intake is happening before this planning grant happens. Maybe even replacing pump 1, pump 2 at the intake. That might happen in advance because we could be 2.5 years down the road before we're at construction on the end of this. So it's all part of it, but some of this stuff has to happen first.
But this grant we're talking about is like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Lots of millions, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like 6 maybe or something.
7.5 if we get the application, then we can have a total of 8.
So normally you pay 20%, right, of a grant.
25. I mean 25 for disadvantage. It just depends on how the numbers come
Let's
out.
say $6 million, okay? 20% that's 1.5 million. That's our total budget. How does that work?
How you
He's
to
asking.
loan it. It's a loan.
So you're getting a grant and a loan.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
A grant that isn't a grant, but a loan that is a loan.
But you're getting a loan to pay our share of the 20%, and you're
Yeah.
getting a grant.
Yeah.
We should sell cars.
But I mean, it's the way it works, and that's, you know, if, as
I know
long
that's how it
as.
works.
But didn't you say you still have to get the loan, or is it the total grant is all for Gabe? I didn't hear that part.
Well, that's, you know,
Or is
it
that-
depends on how the income comes out, but I'm relatively certain that we're gonna be in that 75% range.
So we'll
We're
get-
disadvantaged, but we're not severely disadvantaged is when you have, over 2%. There's a percentage of the median household income in rates, and there's also the level of income of the community. There's a couple factors that come into play. I don't know that we're gonna, based on what we saw with USDA and with DWR, we were declared disadvantaged, which gives us a 75%. That's the number I would count on for now, which means that if it's a $10 million project, you know, we're gonna be taking on a $2 million loan.
Yeah.
Well, we're
About
servicing that loan on the
2.5.
tank for what, $65,000 a year in interest or something?
Huh?
You say, yeah. So that's going to go on to what, 2026? We still got that, a big tank out here. And we're just paying, right? I think that's when that ends, correct? Cindy?
The only way to get the grant is to take on the loan. So if we've got to borrow if we've got to borrow that 25%,
Yeah.
if we have to take on a $2.5 million loan, I can guarantee you I'm going to be recommending that we go forward, if we don't have cash flow, that we go forward with a rate increase that says we're going to get $7.5 million if we increase the rates by this amount.
Well, you better start thinking about the rate increase first. And don't do it during next year's election years. You're going to have somebody out there like last time saying, I can give this water to you for half the amount of money you're paying today, right? We've been through that, and I got to run that. And if I do have to run against something like that, it makes it tough. So you better start doing it now.
Makes sense.
One more point on the rates, though, with this funding is just to put it bluntly, the higher your rates, the more likely you are to get a 100% grant.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and
So
if
if
the
we
rates,
raise our rates now to start saving for the future in anticipation of this loan,
Yeah.
then that puts us in a more positive light.
yeah, so if there's a resolution setting the rates at a certain level, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, it's, it's a percentage of something off the state average, but if there's a resolution that goes in with the construction application saying here's what our rates are, then the amount that the district would qualify as principal forgiveness loan goes up. Basically, you have to show how you're going to pay this loan back. Right.
Yeah.
Now, that's standard in any one of these grant deals, where you get your money from.
Do you, if,
Tough.
I mean, some of these projects to me we need to do them, it's imperative to keep water to this community. So is it wise to project, say, if we don't qualify for anything, what our rates would be? Say, if we had to borrow, I mean, it's going to be $5 million to do part of this work. I mean, we're going to have a $300,000 a year loan payment. So how do we, I'll say, communicate or convey that to get attention that, we really need this money, otherwise this community's at risk of not having water, How is that wise to say if we don't get it, our rates are going to look like this?
Are you trying to convey it to the community or to the...
Well, I think we need to do, it's twofold. One, we need to communicate to the community that we need to do this in preparation for this. And even if we don't do this and we don't qualify, we still need to spend this money to fix the water system here for you.
Well, one good way of doing it is just making it, I don't know if there's a newsletter or some kind of, what's Facebook called? I'm sorry.
Social media.
Social media,
There it
yeah, I'm
is.
not a social media guy. If there's like a social media way to just advertise to the ratepayers that, hey, the district just got this $500,000 planning grant, that's a great thing. And as a result of that, we're going to get a list of these projects, and in order to have all these projects funded, the rates are going to have to be such and such. But it still goes to 218. Yeah, everything's 218. And they can turn it down, like they've been trying to get stuff with the sewer, but they finally passed that down. Yeah, we should try it. We've got this great PR committee, right? Didn't you put me
Yeah.
You put me on the PR committee.
That's us, huh?
Is that you too?
I think
Oh, we can do it.
I can let you know. Give me a second.
Well, where do we put it tonight?
We're going to have you out on the corners holding banners.
Yeah, raise the rates.
So, just running the numbers in rough, the difference between a $7 million loan and a $7 million 75% grant is about $300,000. Another $20 a month difference in your rates. In reality, we would have to, if we were just going to go forward and not plan and not think about it and just get a loan for it, you're talking about $20 a month more than if we got a 75% grant.
One thing is for sure, is that if you wait 10 years, 5 years, 4 years, it only costs more.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Everything costs more. Construction, pipe, all that junk, costs more money. You might as well bite the bullet.
Pete, let me ask a question, because I know when we did the last set of grants, some of the money that we spent, I'll say for the old barge, was reimbursed. Is that an opportunity, like you said, okay, we can't wait for the barge, we can't wait for this, we can't wait for that. These items can we put those in this process and be reimbursed for them like we did before? I don't know if that's,
I want to answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
You can't.
Okay,
So,
well,
yeah.
I mean, you don't know unless you ask, you know, so
Good question.
I want to find out, because last time we bought a barge and we were reimbursed for it because of the drought, you know, and so I didn't know if that was the case again, like in this new grant application, whatever, you know, I think, okay, let's do what we have to do, and, you know.
Right, so the state has these dates that they set as the application process begins, and the application's already been submitted for the planning grant, so money spent even on preparing the planning grant after that initial date is reimbursable, but nothing beforehand.
Okay,
And then when we do
okay.
the construction application as well, same thing. However, if you spend money on any of the capital projects before there's a funding agreement, that money's not reimbursable.
Okay, thank you.
But the other thing, Danny, this is a planning grant. It's not a grant to get, this is just a.
I know,
thing
I
to figure
know, but I
out a
think-
plan.
right,
For
right.
500,000, correct? Is that what it was?
Yeah, but that last resolution is committing revenue to make sure that we have the ability to be able to enter into agreement with them for the construction part of it,
Who's the them?
the State Water Board.
So what would our payment be on, if we had a grant, another 1.5 million? What's our monthly payment or our annual payment interest-wise, if we have to do that?
Oh, if we have to take on a
Say,
million and a half
say we're
loan?
successful in this process and we get $6 million and we're liable for 25%, puts us at 1.5 million. What would our annual payment be on that?
Oh, that would wind up being 15 million. That was not a good number.
I don't like that number.
80, it depends. They do some over 20 and some over 30 years, so I don't know what your experience has been,
We're
Jeff.
not
but-
gonna be
These
here.
are the longer term ones, these are at least 30.
Yeah, okay, so 87, about roughly 87,000.
And how many customers do we have?
We have 1,500 is the number I use.
So 87,000 divided by 1,500 customers equals what? How much do we have to raise the rate?
Got the little calculator right there.
I know, but it's easier for him to do it that way.
Yeah,
He's got the computer and,
$4.82 a month.
How much?
482 a month.
for every connection we have today.
$4.82 a month.
Okay, we need to put that into play somehow.
You said $4.82 a month?
Yeah.
And that's just for what? Connection?
That's to
No, that's per customer.
bring in another 87,000 a year.
No, but what does that cover? Does that cover this big?
That would cover, that,
What?
$1.5 million loan.
that would cover us if we had to borrow, say we got a grant for $6 million, we're on the hook for 1.5 and we had to borrow that 1.5,
Yeah.
we would have to have another new annual payment of $87,000 per year for that, our portion of that
To
grant.
service this loan.
To service that loan. So it boils down to $5 per customer per month at today's.
But don't you still have to pay for the loan?
That would pay for the loan.
That's the loan part of
That's
it.
all- and they're gonna give us 6,
Yeah.
we're responsible for 1.5.
That's correct.
So the loan would be 1.5 million, and our payment would be
87,000.
87,000. And if, to keep us afloat with the $1 million that we have now and not having any other, I'll say, out-of-pocket revenues, we'd have to raise our rates $5 per month.
Now, Jeff, does that take care of all these problems that we have? So-
No, we don't know how much they're gonna cost yet.
Oh, we don't know.
No,
We could, the intake alone could be a
It's
$3
$6
million
million.
project.
Good,
Yeah, no, that's,
I mean, I'm just,
No, you're right.
if we're gonna put in new casing and
All of it.
work around and
and then
environmental
replace that pipe
review.
from, that old pipe from here to there, and, yeah.
What's it cost us to drain the lake so we can do it?
I just got you, just so that the numbers are correct, I just got you a little bit of a discount here, because I had a 4% loan rate calculated in, so the states typically, they've got a subsidized rate, 2.5% is where they are, between 2.1 and 2.5, so using a 2.5% interest, the payment is $71,000.
Yeah, but we don't know what's gonna happen, because if
I know.
we're 2 years out, everything changes and interest rates go up.
So somewhere between $4 and $5 a month we need
$5
to
is a
increase.
nice number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to start priming the community.
So what is it, yeah, but what are we trying to get done? What are, all the laterals and what else? I mean, what are we trying to do? We don't know.
We'll return to you with a nice prioritized list based on, we're gonna feed everything into this and come away with what we can reasonably do and what are the highest priorities.
It's the
for
right
board.
thing to do. This place is completely shot, you know. It was put in faulty stuff. We need to fix it and bite the bullet, you know. $4 if that did it, that'd be zip, that's nothing. But I don't know if that'd do it.
In the worst case-
What's
Do you know what
that?
the rates are in it? What's the rate?
The interest rate or the?
No, the.
Oh,
We pay $53 a month service charge and $2 for a unit of water, which is a 100 cubic foot. They're pretty reasonable. I think.
750 gallons.
but it's a pretty good rate. I mean, it's a pretty solid rate. We've been able to hold our.
But you know,
hold our head up,
like you
but-
said too, and Emery said, the place, we need this. So we either go this direction and try to get the money and pay $5 a month, or we still go the same direction and we go up $20 a month and we get a loan for the whole thing. And we probably won't qualify for a loan for the whole thing. You guys have to sell lemonade on the corner.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, though. You know, walk into this drought, we got through it. We've had forward momentum, we're leaning forward and we're moving. If we don't do this, we'll stop it.
You're right.
And we need to keep going.
You're right, you're right.
And we've done what we've done, by the grace of God, the state of California, and a few grants, but we need to keep this thing going.
When you go to raise customers' rates $5 a month, you're gonna find out how many people dislike you.
That's for sure.
I know, but I'm just saying, we have to make, I'll go back to what Emery said when we approved to go forward with the wells. No matter what we're gonna do here, we're gonna be criticized for the decision we make. So we have to make the right decision, and we've been pretty good at that.
$5 doesn't seem like much. Okay, most of these people are living on retired and
Yeah.
fixed incomes. Understand that, you know.
And then you add in a few people down that are gonna get that raise on the sewer to $171.
But they don't have water, they can't flush their toilet. So,
That's a good point.
But this is huge. This is
is
actually huge. This is
Yeah.
huge stuff here.
Yeah, and we-
And it takes care of, it could potentially take care of
a good portion of
the
it.
majority of the remaining stuff, except for some leaking pipes we got out in the streets.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, it's the, like you said, we have to move forward.
we have to keep our momentum up. I mean, you know, the bottom line is that the ratepayers are indeed the shareholders. They're the benefactors. The only reason I'm here.
Yep. And if you don't have water, you
If
place
they
it
get
with
mad at me
it.
and I'm still doing it in their best interest, that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So what do we need, a motion for this planning grant, or what do we need?
It's for items D, E, and F of the consent agenda.
If you just approve
I'll-
those letters from the consent
If you want to
agenda.
approve the recommended action as written, all you have to say is that, and we can.
That's it.
Okay.
And so with this, just for clarification, this lets you go ahead with the planning grant, is that the idea?
Yeah.
Submitting the planning grant and submitting the construction grant documentation. I'm not going to enter into contract for a construction grant until we have another conversation.
For what?
Well, what he's saying there is, this moves the pendulum forward for us
Yes.
and gets us in line. He's not going to say, take any further action or steps to commit us to anything until he sees what happens, because he's gonna come back and say, okay, look, we qualify for this grant, it's $6 million. Our portion that we have to pay, depends on how the numbers come out, is
1.5.
1.5.
Yep.
So, do you want to play, or you want to play, or you want to get out of the game?
Well, there's only one caveat here, and that's at 20%, but somebody said 25, which would be somewhat more than 1.5, right?
Well,
Well, it could be 100%.
recording
Yeah.
that. Yesterday's board meeting.
What I said is, if we don't do this, if we don't qualify for the grant, they say,
whole time
oh, no, wait,
Is that what the 25% is?
well, the 25% is a
can edit
portion
that,
of the
right?
grant. That's our, the other portion
You
is,
can edit the
depends on how we come out. Someone said we might only have to pay 20%, but Pete's feeling we're gonna pay 25. That's gonna be our contribution.
This is on a state grant, 25%
Right.
of $6 million, which
Right.
is somewhat more than 1.5, that's what I'm saying. 20% of $6 million is 1.5, right?
No,
No.
1.2.
And so 25 is 1.5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the other thing is, if we don't qualify, we still need to do this work. And so we now have our projects lined out, we have a priority, and then we have to go out and see what can we qualify to borrow. Now we go from $5 a month to $20 a month.
So the 1.5 is 5 and the 1.2 is 4, is that what we're saying?
You could say that, but
Yeah.
we're gonna go for 5.
Okay, and this planning grant is 16,000?
That's what it costs.
If we do this, we spend $16,000.
You're already spending the 16,000 no
Already
matter
spending
what.
$16,000?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You're spending
How
that.
quick the money goes?
Yeah, the planning
Okay,
grant.
that's fine.
That was it last year.
But the other thing is that everything that's in this planning grant, even if we don't go forward with it, is now a shovel-ready project, and we can go after a different grant.
I'm not saying not to do it, I was just trying to do it for clarification,
And-
so
and,
when we talk about this later, we know what
Yeah,
it is.
16,000 is the application fee.
Yes.
Then there's a $500,000 bucket to allow you to plan your projects, which is also part of the grant.
That's a planning grant.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
So I
So
still,
we know what we're talking about.
so you already made a motion? I do. Okay.
So
I'll
actually-
second it. I'll second
The
it.
way I have the motion is to accept the items D, E, and F on the consent calendar.
Good.
Perfect. That's
Okay.
correct.
And
And
you
that
have a
was
first and a second.
Emery Rouse and Dan Hinkmeyer. Perfect.
And any public comment, Dave? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, Cindy. Okay. Now, do you want to spend a little bit of time on Jeff's information, or how would you like to do it?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to introduce Jeff. Jeff, like I said before, when we were going through the selection process, I've worked with Jeff at a couple different locations, and I'm familiar with his work on others. And he's a small shop out of Modesto. He's already been up here a couple times, working with Randy and getting us on the road toward recovery. And
He's already got his boots on.
yeah, he's the key to implementation of this stuff. I can't do it on my own. I really need the assistance and the expertise and the help in prioritizing and evaluating the projects and the needs and the condition. And so one thing that we recently did is Jeff and I and Randy reviewed the board's priorities from our last board meeting discussion, where we talked about source water, water quality, leak control, all that, and then also the capital list that we've had in the past. And Jeff put together this memo that was distributed today that summarizes that a little bit. I'd like to just have Jeff give his initial thoughts on this stuff, and then we can talk about where we go from here.
All right, thanks for that kind introduction, Pete. So,
Welcome aboard.
yeah, well, thank you. It's nice to be aboard. One of the things that our firm does is work with rural districts like this, and we really like it, and I think we're kind of cut out to do this kind of work. So hopefully we do a good job for you, and if we don't, then please let me know. But as Pete had mentioned, we over the last few weeks, Randy and Pete and I kind of got together and gone over the capital projects and the priorities that this board has identified, and that Randy and Pete have been working on for the last, well, I don't know how long, before I started to get involved. And this memo that I put together is by no means comprehensive, and I believe that even when this meeting first started, Mr. Hankenmeyer?
Hankenmeyer, yes.
Hankenmeyer, I think I heard you mention to Randy, there are other projects that you want him to stay caught up on, and those projects are not on this list, but we've been talking about them, so those will be included and addressed as we move forward. But this was just the prioritized list of just the larger type projects, some of which absolutely need to be done right away and probably wouldn't be taken care of by this funding that we were talking about previously, but some of them could be and should be involved in, and they'll be further evaluated in that planning study. So the first one is the barge repair. You guys probably know more about this project than I do at this point, but the plans have been prepared for the barge repair, contract's been let, and as far as I know right now, that contractor is engaged in, is that correct?
Well, they were engaged enough to get the motors out and leave holes in the hull, and then we're getting price proposals both from Sierra Communications has a fabricator contractor that they're working with to give us an estimate, and then also the Twin Lakes is maybe back in the mix of this thing, which Twin Lakes was the one who did the original estimate. I talked with them today, and I'm just concerned that they don't communicate all the way through the chain up to the manager there. So I'm hopeful that between the two we're going to have a contractor that's ready to go in this thing.
Have you seen the barge?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
It's been worked on. But the main thing is to get that put back together and get it operational this spring, so that there is a redundant source of surface water to meet the peak demands of the dry season. And then also we can't kick off on some of these other projects like the valve repairs and the intake pumps until that barge is in place.
So Jeff, I was just making noise over here just because I think because of the timeline that I think we're looking at to get that barge back up and running, we may need to see if there's anything available from Rain for Rent or somebody to be able to float a pump out and get water into that tank. Okay. Because I think we're 4 months out no matter what we do, and that concerns me because that puts us out in the.
We were supposed to have 90 days on that in the first place.
Yeah, well, he hasn't even responded. That company's gone. They've been terminated from the contract.
According to his report, we have a new one, right? The house, whatever.
Well, I mean, they have said that they can do it, and they're going to revise their estimate. But we thought they were going to do it before, and then their management said no. So I mean, I have great faith, but I'm not just putting all my eggs in one basket. We've got other people that are giving us proposals too, so that we can, we don't have to lose a bunch of time.
We were out there on Monday with our guy from ACM Metal, and they're putting a proposal together, and I think we're on the right numbers, the last I heard. So I think it looks pretty good. From what I can see, the barge would have to be moved into their facility for them to work on it. But
where is their facility, Cindy?
Modesto.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that looks real promising on our end, but we haven't got the final numbers over to you yet, and I'm expecting that to be done by the end of this week.
So that's been a lot of there's a lot of questions. People don't understand that barge very well, and we don't know a lot about it. So we're trying to make sure that we have an absolute sure thing. Somebody's going to get going on it, but if it's going to be 4 months out, no matter what, we are probably going to need to be ready to rent a pump so that we can replace that control valve if we.
Good idea. Let's start working on it. It hasn't been too good.
And by the way, this barge has been on our agenda. I mean, I don't know how many times, but what I'd like to see is it go away for 20 years, and that's what
I'd like it to go away forever.
Well, that's fine with me too, but I mean, I don't want to see this on our agenda again after we've done all this work.
Do we have to?
I wonder what it would do if you put a little bonus on that to get it done quicker.
Well, let's just see what the proposals look
Yeah,
like, and we'll bounce it off Jeff, and
Yeah.
because Jeff is going to need to, he's going to be working with a structural engineer or somebody to help do some inspections, whether it's in the shop in Modesto or out here, and to make sure that we get the work
I want
product.
to say thank you, Cindy, for looking at it, but have we looked at the facility over at Don Pedro? I mean, if we have to transfer the boat, move it all the way to Modesto, I mean, they have some good welders and stuff over there as well. I don't know what all the scope of work is. I mean,
I think we've got a couple of very competent people working on it right now that both say they can do it, and so, it takes so much time to engage another bidder when they have no clue based on the plans what they're doing. It really will take weeks and weeks to get additional. I think we're going to get the right numbers and the right contractor out of this effort.
The reality of the matter is, with the wells, and if we were in a worse summer condition, we only need 200 or 300 gallons a minute if we were restricted at 50% out of the lake into the tank to meet almost peak summer demands, right?
Peak reduced summer demands.
Okay.
If we shave off the high and get people to drop back 30%, and if we are able to get some surface water, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we need a big pump.
Right.
We just need something to get up
Just
that
gotta
hill.
get it to the small tank.
And the lake's gonna be full,
Because we're
so.
leaking it faster than we're getting it in a small tank.
But we can shut, if we get that other barge, if we
Yeah.
get some other pump, we're gonna shut the intake valve off, and then it won't leak back.
Really good idea. We're gonna raise your rates and we're gonna reduce your consumption. That's a really great idea.
I know.
That's easy to sell.
That's why you need a drought surcharge, like John was talking
and
about.
you think about
What was that
saying,
again?
That's why you need a drought surcharge. That's what Goleta Water District did,
Oh.
because they had to reduce water consumption, and because of that, they lost a bunch of revenue, so they adopted a flat rate charge, and that's what got challenged under Prop 218, and Goleta Water District won. So you can do a drought charge even more money.
Here's the
here's the thing, we think about this, going forward, say we lose intake, say we lose intake.
Yeah.
Right now, we've had one of the wettest years in how many decades? And we're gonna tell these people in this community, oh, by the way, you're gonna have to cut your water consumption
I
this year.
just said it. How you
Yeah.
gonna do that?
Yeah, well, it's not a good message. It's
No,
just-
raise your rates and cut your water.
Yeah, right.
What?
And you have
if you'd ever worked with Wayne.
Jeff, on these
I've met
projects
with them
that
once
are
before.
identified here, I know this is
I've
just
never
a tentative
ordered
list,
nothing.
I know there's a lot more.
Yeah.
What should we expect from you as far as having more communication on these projects? What's the next steps as far as plans?
So on the barge repair, those plans are done.
Okay.
And so our involvement would be, as Pete pointed out, just basically managing the construction, keeping them on schedule, doing the inspection, making sure that it gets done within budget, put back in the lake and start working. On the intake pump station, there hasn't been any plans done there, so our office would take care of putting together the plans and the specifications for that. There's some options for that. One option would just be to replace the valves that are there. Randy's had some really good thoughts on that, and that would be to just get rid of the pump control valves altogether and put in variable frequency drives to control the flow of those two intake pumps. The electrical building needs to be redone anyway, so that'd be a good project to combine and take care of that. That way, we're not messing with having to maintain and operate those pump control valves.
But you have no idea what cost is involved in this at this point.
I'm not gonna, I can't say what the
doesn't matter.
cost is, yeah.
That's true, it's gotta be done.
It's big. It's a big deal.
No, it is, but it doesn't matter, we've gotta fix it.
I know. It is a hard. Why exist?
Yeah.
Without it. Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, on the raw water main, I have this project listed as number 3. As we talked about it a little bit, the priority of that project may drop if the intake pump solution reduces the amount of water loss in the system. And then our involvement on that would be plans just for replacements or repairs of the water main, and that's, or pipeline replacement.
Do you have any good relationships with anybody from PG&E?
No.
Okay, all right,
Is
no, I'm
there
just
a
saying.
relationship with PG&E?
Of course, I worked for Edison for 35 years, so
Yeah.
yes. Well, the reason I'm to say, we're just trying to leverage
Yeah.
your relationships to see if we get some, issues resolved, so.
I have to admit that I probably am viewed by PG&E as just like almost every other consultant.
that's- I know that's-
We're just a thorn in their side trying to get them to do something.
We'll call Randy.
So, okay, Ranchito Well, we've had it replaced, it's been renovated, but it's been sitting. How long do you anticipate it taking to get that thing connected?
I don't think it'll take very long at all. So I was looking at the plans. The well was actually rehabbed recently. So the current plan is just to reconfigure the piping at the discharge and connect it to the main out in the road. I don't know the name of the well that's a quarter of a mile down the road.
To the west?
Yeah, it's
Ranchito 2?
Is that Ranchito
It's
2?
just that easy. 1, 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after looking at the current plan for Ranchito 1 and then looking at Ranchito 2 last week with Randy, it seems like just modeling the same system and making it essentially identical. And that's probably less than 30 days worth of construction. I mean, it's basically putting in vaults and piping, disinfecting it, connecting it up. It should be a pretty straightforward project. If I start saying things that are way too optimistic, throw something at me.
No, it's the thing we learned from Ranchito 2, Jeff, is that the underground vault is not the way to go.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you ever got a chance to look at Medina 1 and 2 over there. Those are the those are the ones that this is modeled after. So it's all above ground, which makes it even easier and faster for construction. So in all reality, probably 2 weeks in and out, including the fence.
But this has been on our agenda for the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got the design in January, and and so then we're getting proposals again. We're getting another proposal from Sierra, and I've got one from Neerich as well. As long as it doesn't exceed our bid limit, then we don't have to go to competitive
This is
bidding.
kind of like the barge. We see it every time we meet.
There's no,
Well, I gotta keep you aware of them.
components, no long lead time items. It's all off the shelf valves and meters, and so I think once we have a contractor on board, give them a start date and to be completed by, and hold their feet to the fire, and they'll get done.
This one was not going to have 3 months to wait for the mud to dry or any of that.
It's probably pretty muddy over there right now, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's all they
Right on
throw a
the
little gravel down and they'll be able to get it done.
Right on the road.
We don't have to get a rig in there or anything. So
Okay. So, good question. Let's run through
5 is what we've already discussed as far as the planning grant. This is the first time I've seen bluebell pipe replacement.
Yeah, I like it.
Somebody must have said that at the last board meeting, right?
No, I don't remember.
it's in an old document somewhere.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So from what I
I saw a
understand,
blue, I didn't realize it was in when I said it.
a disproportionate amount of breaks and leaks in the distribution system occur where the bluebell pipe is. And so that's one of those things that I suspect the district's going to continue to just make repairs as they come up, and we can throw that project into the planning study and construction for that planning grant and take care of all of it at one time.
Let me ask, not knowing the area where we're doing the 120 service lines, are there cul-de-sacs involved?
A couple.
Couple?
Yeah.
Would it be wise to go ahead and have, there's bluebell there now?
I don't recall if there's, I don't believe there's bluebell in those.
Okay, all I was gonna say is, if it's there now, while they're here and while they're tearing it up, let's tear it up one time instead of twice. I'm just asking, and I don't know how much it would cost, and I don't know if we can work that into the process.
She's sitting over there, right?
Well, I know, but this is the first she's probably heard of it too. So I'm just asking,
They love change orders.
I'm very familiar with the bluebell that's out here.
okay, so
Yeah.
can we look at that on those two color, and I know you said the schedule might have to,
Well, if we ran into some, what we could do is just RFP it to you.
Yeah.
And if you want it replaced, then we just propose it and we replace it. I mean, it's pretty simple.
The only thing we absolutely have to do is we have to meet the grant timelines of getting this done by July.
okay, well, I'm just saying though, if it's 2 streets and 2 lines, I don't think that would push us out.
No, we
that
just
much,
need
and-
to
Yeah, I'm just,
keep that in mind. Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, I get you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
All right. One of the questions, as I listened to you talk projects, one of the things we've been working on for quite a long time is water meter replacements in what we call them zone meters. I don't know what the proper terminology is, and I don't know if that's in our grant with the service line, because I know we had certain things in there, but I have forgot. Is those water meters, zone meters, whatever you want to call them?
TRD, is that what you're talking about?
No, the master meters. The only one that's in is the effluent meter.
Okay.
Okay, and that's the main meter that's been flooded for quite some time. That one is being replaced and rebuilt, so it doesn't have that same problem again. So that we have an accurate round-the-clock reading of the water coming out of the treatment plant. The meters at the pump stations at Central, Tulipin, Anibro. But anyway, those are the 3 main stations. Those are not. We just don't have the money available in the grant to be doing those. And what I'm doing, Danny, is I'm trying to pick away at this problem. Replace the master meter on the effluent, and see if between that and the 120 service lines, if we've got the leakage under control. Because other than trying to narrow down and use it as a water audit mechanism, there's no other purpose for those master meters.
Okay.
It's just an expensive project for not a lot of value right now.
Oh, effluent, that could be 2 things to me. One would be filter backflush,
No.
getting a handle on that,
It's-
or you were talking about finished water out of the plant.
Finish water out of the plant.
Okay. I just wanted, because I know we talked about this with our leaks.
Yeah.
You said I need those meters for zones so I can see where to focus at, and that's the only reason. And if we're looking at projects and priorities to give us tools, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss something.
Yeah, we'll have when we throw all of this into the mix, we'll talk more with Jeff about those and see if Jeff, those are just basically at the pump stations where it feeds from one tank to another zone, and we have the ability to go out and read that the meters, all the residential meters in that zone, and compare it against what went into it and the change in level, if we need to get more precise on a water audit where we're losing, you know. So we'll just have to, because we've been running 30% or so in unaccounted for water, whether it's real or whether it's not. And that's just outrageous. So we gotta deal with that.
This work here specifically kind of puts off, my mind's telling me that I brought up the fact that we started to pursue updating our capital projects and all the work scope of work we really had to do. This is taking a fair chunk of it. Does that mean we're putting off our emphasis on looking at, or am I confused?
We just haven't added all the other stuff in yet.
Okay, but are we as a board going to have meetings about the stuff that remains? That's on an immediate basis, or is that we're going to put this off a bit because we've taken a chunk of it away?
The thought was Randy and I are going to continue to feed it to Jeff, and Jeff is going to continue to drop it into a reasonable order where we can have an overall look at what things need to be replaced, and then we'll be prioritizing it as, you know, 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 years. And I'm open to your recommendations on how to go about that, because we've got, you know, no, we intend to address everything. We need to look at the whole
All I was getting
picture.
at, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I brought up the fact that we needed to revisit it, like that time when we went and spent day talking about our capital stuff. And we were talking about it, and I think this kind of puts that off, the need for that, other than maybe some operational side things to talk about, but not infrastructure.
This covers
I don't think we
that.
need to talk about infrastructure, but maybe we still need to pursue.
But this covers that.
I'm not talking about infrastructure.
I know.
Okay,
Capital improvement.
yeah. Okay, never mind.
Well, I think you're on track, because we were gonna have like a planning meeting, but I think this kind of will supersede it and kind of take care of
Puts
it.
it off for a while.
Yeah, so, and with the planning grant and everything kind of lining up, then we'll have to say, what can't we do out of the planning grant, because we have to borrow money, then that kind of puts us, you know.
And, yeah, but operational, we still need everything.
All right. All right, any other questions for Jeff?
I would have a comment. Are you done? Or?
If you say I'm done. The first thing that's left on here is the current projects. I think we've talked about the service line replacement project, the altitude valve replacement in Elmo and Ebro. That's underway.
The board hasn't heard about those.
Oh,
Uh, so
You want me to bring them up?
yeah, it'd be great.
All right, so the altitude valves at those 2 tanks are not functioning properly, and so the operations doesn't really have a good way of telling and managing the level of the water in the tanks.
You talking about those hydromatic tanks or something else?
No, just the atmospheric tanks. And so the altitude valve, it controls when to open and when to close, so to fill that tank up, and then it closes, and then it opens back up and when the tank gets low. Those valves at those 2 locations, and I think there's others in the district that are not on their best leg either, but those 2 primarily are of concern, causing Randy a bunch of extra work, so.
Okay.
This may be in Pete's court more than yours, but can you remind the board, or at least me, what was part of the hazard mitigation thing? That was the one through Tuolumne County, I believe, but what was the scope of that?
Generators.
Generators, okay.
That was that $400,000 or $500,000 grant that we went.
I knew generator, I thought maybe there was something else, but it was just basically generators.
Right now, there was a lot of other stuff on the list, but that's a big chunk of a project, and that, I believe, would be probably a pretty high priority for funding under this program.
I'm ready, Danny. You're done now? Is that it?
I'm done.
Okay. I was going to say, Elizabeth was the engineer. Her grandfather started this thing with Boise, then her father, then Elizabeth. And I was really leery about leaving those guys because of all that history. I've been on the board 11 years in the fall. She came here once, so you are now tied. Just one more time, you'll beat her record. And I think it's the
Pressure's on.
Yeah, pressure's on. I think this is a really good thing that we did. I was really leery about leaving those guys, but I can see this is going to be really good for the district. They're more involved in this than she was. She was great, but I think it's really good.
I think we need. Your smile's growing
I
on
think it's
me.
really, yeah.
Well, I appreciate your confidence and your optimism, and like I said, I think our firm is well suited to work with the district. It's not just me. We've got several other engineers that can support in these design projects, because some of them are kind of big. And we've got field staff that can come out and help with construction and inspection and take some of the load off of Randy and Jose, so they can do their job. So I
think we're finally going to get this place in pretty good shape.
One thing you're going to find out is that this board will be the easiest board you ever worked with. I promise you that.
we didn't show you that today, though.
Maybe we're not so smart, but we're easy.
You got some pretty good boards. I mean, you got some progressive districts and some that are
Progressive, don't say that.
well, and some that are really, really involved in the operation, and others.
Have a good feeling about this one, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Jeff. Okay, that takes care of the adoption. Pete, you want to go over your normal operating report? Which is pages 6.
Oh, yeah, page 60.
Where are we?
We are on 5D, 5C,
Is that what
right?
it is, 5C?
We never liked this, but this is one time.
Hang on.
He's asking for your managers.
No, we're talking about 5C on page 60.
Okay. We're good.
I wasn't sure which one that was, so I apologize for not putting the pages.
So I've actually done these types of evaluations, and they've been helpful in better understanding the operation and helping the board understand all that's involved in just the day-to-day operation of the district. We've got a water treatment plant. We've got a pumping system from the lake. We've got a transmission system. We've got a water treatment plant, full surface water treatment plant, and then a pretty complicated distribution system for the small number of connections. So there's a lot to do. I've separated this report into the operating effort and then into the maintenance plan portion of it. Okay, and I did that purposely because I want to look at them separately. There's different levels of certification, different levels of skill required for the two different activities between operation and maintenance. The operating side, our operators to be in charge of the plant have to be a D2 certified operator. They can be higher than that. They just can't be lower than that to be in responsible charge. And there are certain things that the state mandates that we do in terms of readings, in terms of calibrating equipment, in terms of the accuracy of our reporting. And what I've done is I've looked at a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, annual schedule of these things and tried to put numbers to it in a perfect world. And Emery, I think you had a good point. This assumes that you show up and you disappear from being inside your vehicle and you're already at your desk. Then you disappear from your desk and you're already out at the control panel. There's no delay. There's no stopping to take a leak. There's no anything in between. It's basically just the time effort involved in a particular function. So there's some error inherent in that kind of evaluation, but it can help you to understand the percentage of the day that each different task takes. And I think in a perfect world, okay. But it also helps as Randy might take this outline of this operating report and then fill it in over a couple months of how much time it takes him to do these things and actually fact check it. And also we'll understand a little bit better how much of the day is whoops time. Because again, this normal operating effort doesn't assume that anything goes wrong. It assumes that you come in and when you turn that pump on, that pump comes on, control valve opens, the water flows, the pressure's right, the flow is right. There's nothing abnormal about anything. In our situation, because for decades we have put off projects because they're expensive and they're difficult, we've come into a situation now where that's come back to bite us, and so we're spending a lot of time troubleshooting in the middle of the day, okay? So this does not include that troubleshooting time, except when I talk about meters, but I specifically have that separated out. So I've got it broken down operating the treatment plant, as you can see, an estimated quarter of an employee or so. And remember, you only have about 1,800 hours of an employee considering sick time and holidays and vacation time. Somewhere between 1,700 and 1,800 actually. So they may have a 2,080 hour work year, but in reality you've got to calculate less than that. So operating the treatment plant, operating the distribution system. In reality, and Randy is going to add to this over time, because again, this is just from my perspective and my experience. Then I've got a section on service line repair projects and vehicles. Lump those together because those are known things that we have to deal with. There's a good chunk of time there, because I do have built into that dealing with some of the malfunctioning controls and distribution system equipment. Okay, and I don't know how to calculate that at this point. So I really, those are just a best guess estimate. Customer service, we've got a certain amount of known customer service activities that we do based on customer calls, service orders. Administration reporting, there are mandatory state reports, there are reports to the board. A lot of it is coordination. Randy took a call from the state, 15-minute time frame to talk with the state about lead and copper sampling, and now he's got another probably 3 hours of time in coordinating that to occur with Aqualab to do lead and copper sampling at the school and report that to the state. So those things take time, and then I've summarized it if we had a perfect world, we may be able to get by with 2 full-time equivalents. However, that doesn't leave you any fudge factor time. It doesn't leave you any what happens when one person's gone for an extended period of time. You know, you don't have any crossover. You're on call. So in reality, I would say in the operating side, if things are going right, it would probably be a 3-person operation, 3 operators. I'm just looking at the rest of that.
The lead and copper thing, because it's kind of interesting that LA, a long time ago, maybe 40 years ago, industrial waste wouldn't take LA city water down the drain because they had their math wrong on lead and copper. And 3 months ago, I caught TUD with exactly the same situation. Their raw fresh water out of their system was not suitable to put down the drain by their own standards. And they had to pass a resolution and change the standards. So lead and copper have issues as far as what is,
They passed a new law about lead and copper sampling in schools, and so it is mandatory now. And we do the sampling, and hopefully the school doesn't have any problem. Every district that I've been involved with, they've had a problem because they were all built in the same time.
And themselves,
yep.
right? They're just solid lead
Yep.
exchangers in there.
What kind of person is this you're talking about? A 1, 2, or what is it?
Oh, like if we went from 2 to 3 employees, we would always look for a grade 2 operator.
Oh.
We may have to develop them there, but there's we may not be able to just attract a grade 2 operator, but
Yeah.
we got to have the crossover because even though they're both grade 2 now, if Jose's got a vacation and Randy twists his ankle and can't come in, then somebody's got to be in responsible charge.
All I was going to say is, listening to what I've heard today about these grants and stuff we want to do, I think Randy's going to be doing a lot more administrative type of stuff.
He is.
Yeah.
So there will be
That's
someone
gonna be
doing a lot more
guy.
paperwork. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're talking a lot of paperwork here. You're talking $6 million, all this stuff. It's huge, administratively. It's going to be busy.
The main impact that he's going to see during that is the customer service panic, and you got 2 crews of a contractor running around in different places, and even though you've got inspections covered, you're going to have outages, you're going to have dirty water calls, you're going to have this, you're going to have that, you're going to have after-hour calls, you're going to have coordination. It just takes a lot of time.
Randy's got a lot of new responsibilities.
So there are things that really are not reflected on here. There's a little bit in here for administrative coordination and all that, but staff meetings and other things, it's hard to quantify right now.
Well, basically,
How much time?
He's got 2 contractors right here. He's got oversee, and he's got NIRIC, right? And he's got his employee, plus all his regular stuff. He's got a pretty full plate, And the grant stuff is going to produce a lot more stuff. So I can understand having another employee. I can justify it for you.
So, and again, this wasn't for the purpose of creating another position, but I think we've all known that's something we need to be talking about, and we need to. I don't want to stress these guys out to the max when they run a red line.
That's a lot of responsibility, and you start to lay on these guys.
So then I'll finish this by saying, when you go to the next pages on 62 and 63, you've got more information that came from our maintenance plan that we went through a little over a year ago. And I put some numbers to, if we had a qualified person able to go out and do some of this maintenance. They were trained in it, they had the tools, they went out, they did it, it worked, their tools worked, the technology worked, and they went back to the next site. This is an estimated amount of time that it might take to do it. Again, right now we're dealing with something, you go to try to service a pilot valve and you got a control valve that sticks open and you can't get it to work. That's just the nature of the beast right now. That kind of time is not reflected in here. And again, we're looking at, for somebody that's doing this type of maintenance, they've got a certain skill set that they need for much of it. The board also asked for what components of this might we be able to, or would it be best for us to do in-house, what might be good to contract out. And just on a preliminary basis, things like the street valve maintenance, when you look at the bottom of page 62, that the estimated 581 annual hours required for that. That assumes that they can go out, take the top off the valve, put the valve key in there, turn it all the way to the bottom, turn it all the way back up to the top, put the top on it, and move on to the next one. Okay? In many cases, you got to get the vacuum out, you got to try to clean it out, you got to, then the valve's stuck, and you got to really crank on it. But assuming that things work for the most part, that is an activity that we can contract out. There are contractors that'll come out, operate your valves, give you a report, which ones worked, which ones didn't, which ones are giving you trouble, which valve cans need to be replaced. And those are things that, I'm telling you, operating those valves is going to be more and more important because they're starting to be at the end of their useful life. And sometimes you don't know that they don't work until they don't work, when something's blown apart. And so part of operating that valve is also seeing if it actually shuts down. Oh, shut 2 valves, open a hydrant in between, see if it shuts down. So that's a big activity. Pump maintenance, those kind of things. Those are things that we could possibly sub out. And what I'm saying by sub out is that for us to attract and train someone and retain them is becoming more and more difficult. Okay? To assume that we're always going to be able to have qualified staff to do this stuff and be able to train them and be able to keep them around is going to lead us to a situation where we've got turnover that we've got to deal with, and some of this stuff's not going to get done. If you contract out for it, you know it's going to get done. And that's part of what we've had in the past, is not being able to get things done. A lot of the treatment plant maintenance stuff is probably things that we can do ourselves and have been doing. That's a good activity while your other things are running, and it's a good efficiency function. The pressure regulating valve maintenance, that can be subbed out. Once those are functioning right, it's not a lot. We could do the inspections, but the annual servicing and the checking them or rebuilding the valve itself, that's a possibility to have contracted out. But anyway, that is not being implemented for the most part. Some of the treatment plant maintenance stuff is getting done. The remote readings are obviously always getting done, and some of the site inspection stuff. But the more detailed technical work of what appears to be about a full-time position in a perfect world.
He's also got one other contract with the boat thing. And the other thing is, this is also probably going to impact her too, and the office. All this new stuff, right? I mean, we're taking putting a lot of, this is really big what we're doing. It's huge, work-wise.
We got to know what it is. I think that's what Danny wanted to do from the beginning, was have a way to identify what there is to do. That's why we're working on the capital project side, and now we're doing more, getting into more depth, accurate or not, on time of what we have to do in operation and maintenance, and then we can just.
It's a really exciting time to be on the board when we're doing this stuff. So we can have to take care of these employees so they don't go into overload. Whatever it takes.
Any questions?
Not at this time. I'm thinking of one, and I'll talk to Pete about it.
Okay. No? Okay, thank you, Pete. Moving on, the last one on our agenda is adoption of a resolution, the dedication of the water line for Dollar General. Pete, you want to give us this finally? Nope, what?
Not happening yet.
So we don't need to do this?
Nope. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I could have talked to you before the meeting about it, Danny. They did not produce the simplest part of it, which is the letter dedicating it.
Okay.
And they did not provide the maintenance bond.
So then, as far as item 5E, we will,
It's ready to go for next month.
okay, fine, all right?
And they own it for another month.
Okay.
This is the little store. They just, you know how it goes with developers. They get it done as fast as they can and didn't.
And then run.
Then run, yeah.
All right, everyone, that will conclude the meeting for the clock. It's about 3:18 on February the 20th. Thank you all for coming and your participation. Have a good day.
How did we get through that in 2 hours and 15 minutes?
It's amazing.